listening to the Straight to Video podcast with Rob Lane.
What is going on? I hope you're all doing amazing and welcome along to another Straight to Video podcast. I'm your host Rob Lane, and on today's episode I want to welcome singer-songwriter Rich Ragany to the show. Rich is originally from Canada, but since the mid-2000s he's been writing and performing here in the UK, where he got married and now lives. Some of you may know Rich from his band The Role Models, and most recently he began performing under the name of Rich Ragany and The Digressions, and this year released the brilliant album Beyond Nostalgia and Heartache. If you like a great mix of Tom Petty, Jesse Malin, and maybe some Paul Westerberg replacements angst thrown in for good measure, then you will love these songs. Rich also has a really great Christmas song out right now called December in My Heart, which we speak about during this chat. And all his music can be found on the band's Bandcamp page, which you can find by simply going to bandcamp.com and searching Rich Ragany, that's spelled R-A-G-A-N-Y. Before we get into this chat, please show some love and support to my good friends Rich and Mark at Dead Skull Coffee, who have been long-time supporters of this show, and they are offering you 15% off their wonderful ground or full bean coffee. Head on over to deadskullcoffee.co.uk, fill up your shopping basket and add the promo code STV on checkout. And as it's the run-up to Christmas, you can also grab some Dead Skull Coffee merch too for any coffee-loving friends, so please check them out. Also, there's lots of cool stuff over on the Straight to Video Patreon page. I'm super flattered by everyone who shows that extra support for the show with a monthly donation, which starts at just £2.50 a month, and in return you get a bunch of exclusives, including an early heads up on guests, bonus podcasts, blogs, and even get your hands on some merch that isn't available anywhere. All the info can be found at patreon.com/STVpod, and thank you for checking that out. Alright, as you will hear, Rich Ragany is a lovely bloke and he's been on a heck of a journey. I want to thank him for being so open about his childhood and his family relationships, and I loved hearing his stories and the passion he has for both his favourite bands and also creating music of his own, and I think you'll enjoy hearing about it too. So let's dive into my Straight to Video chat with Rich Ragany.
There we go. My 11-year-old daughter just really, she saved me as usual when it comes to this stuff. Like, for instance, when I want to rewind something on the Disney Channel and I do it wrong and I get told, man.
They're so young, but they're like sponges. They just know everything. It's nuts.
I know. When I was her age, I was taking my bike off of giant like hills and stuff and like breaking my teeth. And she's like, she's doing all these cool things. But, I mean, this would have been Star Trek to me, right? Oh, my God, Rob Lane is hailing me. You know what I mean? It's like, well, I answer. I'm being hailed, you know?
How are you, man? Anyway, everything good?
Yeah, everything's all right, you know. At the moment here in beautiful palatial and you know, very urban Leamington Spa with my family. And, man, it's nice to see you, by the way.
I don't know if we've actually met officially. You might be able to tell me better.
Well, I know we've been in the same room a few times.
Yes, definitely. I think I saw you at Derby at the Hairy Dog, but that's probably some years ago.
Holy cow. That was with Scotty.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. That was a really good night too.
Yeah, Scott, sorry. Yeah. That was a fun night, actually.
I knew loads of people there that night.
Oh, yeah. It's all because of us. I mean, nobody knows who Scott Sorry is.
100%.
I'm kidding. That guy's like a brother to me, man. Jesus. We were just talking earlier. He was laughing about that stupid Christmas video I made.
Mate, that's great. That song is awesome as well. December in My Heart. It's very, very cool.
Oh, thanks, man. Thank you. It's on a bet. Well, a dare, more or less. It's on a dare. I was at Justine's old friends. We were at their place. They had this beautiful old house with a thatched roof and stuff like that. We were walking their dogs and this huge, and Nicholas kind of goes, oh, you're a pretty good songwriter. I went, oh, geez, thanks, And then he was like, you know what? I bet you couldn't write a Christmas song. And I was like, oh, yeah, you think so? I'd already had about 4 glasses of red wine. It was like probably about 11 o'clock in the morning. And I was like, oh, yeah. And man, seriously, my mind just went into overdrive, And I just came up with that line, time does its best to keep us apart, but I'll always have you in December in my heart, right? And then I thought, that's a good line, actually. And then I just wrote it in their bathroom on a quarter-length acoustic classical guitar that their daughter had. I have to write in bathrooms. That's where I write all my songs. It's the Lou studio. It's the reverb, man. It's the vibe, I finished it right there. And I sent it to Gath, my guitar player, my little iPhone recording. And he was like, man, once all the meatballs are on there, it's going to sound pretty good, So anyway, that's the story behind that thing.
Turned out great, man. Really, really cool. Did you base it on have you got any favorite Christmas songs yourself?
Well, I'll be totally honest with you, As far as Christmas songs go, my mom was a huge Elvis fan. And my wife, we put up the tree the other day. Justine's just like, I was like, let's listen to Elvis, man. One song in, she goes, I can't listen to more than one song of that guy. I was like, oh, what?
I'm only just finding this out now.
16 years of marriage? So that was off the table. I love all the Elvis kind of croony stuff as well as the rock and roll cheesy kind of Christmas stuff. But really, I'll be totally honest, and I think it's pretty apparent from the song. I was like, I loved Slade when I was a kid because I couldn't understand. I was born in 1971, okay? And my brother had that album Sladist. I remember hearing it. My brother had it on, and then I went to go look at the cover, and I was like, what are these guys doing? Like, the dolls looked cool. Cheap Trick looked cool. Everybody looked cool. Slade just looked like, it's not like they didn't care. They put thought into it, but they had such a great sense of humor. I was like, I kind of fell in love with that almost immediately as a kid. I was like, man, these guys are just hamming it up, right?
It's like Sweet on 11.
Yes, exactly. It's almost like a parody of Sweet. But the way they sounded was immense and cool. And that Christmas song, I was like, wow, that's a perfect Christmas song. And I think with the glam elements of it, I wanted this song to have that kind of feel. But I also wanted it to be mixed with how would that song sound if you had somebody like Paul Westerberg or something wearing his heart on his sleeve a bit. I wanted a dichotomy of like really fun, uplifting chorus and harmonies and that glam stomp. And Gav's got that great guitar run, sounds like Brian May kind of. And I was just like, the lyrics, it's about me when I lived in New York and I hadn't seen my family, my parents in like 5 years. Christmas was spent at a place called Motor City in the Lower East Side with a lot of friends from other bands, like, Carlos from Interpol and stuff. We'd sit there and a drummer for Place to Bury Strangers. He was the DJ there. So he used to play like the entire second side of Love Gun for me. We were there all night. Like, it was like a full shift,
So everybody who's away from home, everyone's missing the family.
Rob, these were the guys who were like, there's no home and there's no Christmas tree and stuff. I'm not saying it wasn't incredibly awesome and fun that time of my life in New York. I loved living there so much and I miss it a lot sometimes, but that's a great thing because you're missing people. And if it hits you in the heart that much, then it's important. But I do remember there's that melancholy feel, you'd be walking down that street, there'd be that dusting of snow. And you'd be thinking, I bet, and the truth is, man, I bet my mom would like to see me now. I mean, I missed her desperately, my dad and stuff, but, my family, my brother George, is my best friend. We just lost him this year, And I was like, bet you my mom especially would like to see her little boy, But that was it. I just want to write a song about that feeling, about like a couple of my brothers, unfortunately, we had a tough relationship and we weren't really talking because, I come from a family of 6 kids and that was hard too. And I wanted it to, that whole thing you try and it's not going to happen. And sometimes you just got to be honest about it. And that's what that song's about. It's trying to repair something or at least meet in the middle or tell each other what you love about them. Maybe we're not loving each other, but maybe there's something about each other that we do love. And that's what that song's about, A bitter breeze, almost Christmas, empty streets at 3 a.m. and I hear your laughter on the wind kind of thing. It maybe seems a little Well, it's a Christmas song, so, I didn't go to Bob Dylan on that, but I wasn't rhyming dictionary either, though. So I want it to be, there's a great thing that Nile Rodgers told David Bowie once, and I always say this in the catchiest song, if you go, this is a real pop kind of song, and it's kind of writing itself too easily. Always find one line. If you find yourself in this area where you're feeling uncomfortable in the obvious populist kind of idea of putting it across to a lot of people, find that one line in the song that moves you. And then every time you sing it, you won't feel like an idiot.
Man.
So I just want that dichotomy of those two things, like super joyous, ripping presents open with your pals and your family and, champagne and enjoying each other together, mixed with the fact that, geez, I sure wish I could be with those people again.
What did your mum think of the song when she heard it?
Oh, that's good, Richie. Good.
That's all you can ask for.
For all you people listening out there, if you're an artist or you're a songwriter or whatever, remember, these people know you intimately, your family. Don't expect them to go, oh, that was amazing. Can I listen to that again and hear the lyrics? It's like, I'm Little Richie. The less you expect the kind of big thing, oh, I love that, the happier everybody's going to be.
Definitely, man. Like you say, you grew up in like a really big family in Calgary, 4 older brothers and a sister with, I think, quite big age difference. I think George, your brother, he was the closest with like 8.5 years older.
Wow, yeah, you're right, yeah.
How do you remember that whole dynamic? Had a lot of your older brothers moved out by the time you're like early memories and stuff, or did they stick around?
Funny, in the 70s and 80s and stuff, a lot of European families, refugee, like my parents were refugees from the Hungarian Revolution, and they came and made a life. They met in England here in the Isle of Wight. So when I moved back here, my dad, my mom were they're like, oh, so we come all the way from the old country, build a life for you so you can go and piss off back to England, right? And I was like, yeah, but do you see my wife in that sweater? Come on. What I'm saying is I fancy that wonderful, smart, amazingly bright and powerful woman. I'm in awe of her completely. But I found her super hot, so I was like, sure.
Yeah, she looks hot as well.
Right, Rob, keep this in. She'll like this. Or maybe she'll be really mad. I don't know. What are you talking about? But basically, yeah, there was my brother George, who's my best friend. My sister, who was almost like my mom in a certain way. She got married and moved out when I was 5. But she used to come visit and stuff. And because when she was like about 12, 13, she used to take care of me. So I used to actually, when I was a real young kid too and stuff, I used to call her mom, which would embarrass her. We went to this corner shop and stuff, the corner store. But she was always really kind to me and really had a lot of time for me. And then there were, I'll say this because everybody has a side to it. There was a bit of a abusive kind of relationship with a few of the older brothers, and it wasn't fun sometimes. And you find ways to make yourself small and get out of the way, because 2 of those guys were bodybuilders, big lads and kind of athletes and stuff. And, it's really hard because you really want them you look up to them. You want to be their best friend. And that's the thing. It's like that bully in the schoolyard. Oh, man, I wish you would like me. And then part of it is I wish you'd like me so I wouldn't get, the bleeding nose. But at the same time, it's like if somebody's really nice to you for one sec, do you know what I mean? You get really confused, And as we got older, some of that stuff ironed out, thank God. But then it fell apart again. It was a tough relationship. And they have their side to it. And I'm not trying to make it sound like they're villains or anything. I wrote this song, Bullshit Corner, because there was a place in Forest Lawn where I grew up called Bullshit Corner, where people would take their cars and drag race them like grease. I'm not kidding. They talk about the cars, bullshit about, the cars and the girlfriends and the boyfriends and this and that. And my brother Leslie, he passed when I was 16 and he was 27. And man, that guy just did not like me. And I know why, because he was bullied himself quite a bit. And I found that out later. And you just go, oh, man, I wish that one door could have opened it very easily, and you try and it didn't work. And it didn't happen, really. But when you say you forgive him, I'm not trying to be like I'm giving some kind of forgiveness. But I do, because I did look up to him. There's so many things about him that I found intriguing and wonderful and smart and talented. Like that guy could build a car, take apart a car and rebuild it in like a day.
Yeah. Turn
it over for like twice the money and stuff. He was fantastic. He once sold a car in one day because he convinced the person who was buying it he had put high performance air in the tires of his car.
What a legend.
And the guy came back because I want my check back. That's the stupidest thing I ever heard. I drove away and he was like, my brother, he looked like a real grease monkey, you know, long hair, holes in his jeans. Like, nah, I got your check now, man. Ain't no way. You signed the pink slip, you know, the pink slip and all that stuff. You know, but George was my best pal, my best friend, and he would hang out with me a lot. Why the 16-year-old would hang out with the dumb 8-year-old.
Did you give him much choice?
No.
Well, there you go.
But see, for instance, one thing I'm totally in debt for is when you try to be small and not get in the way, not make people mad, you know, you're a kid, you're thinking you're making people mad. My parents were wonderful and they had no idea. Okay. So just to clear that up right away, they were wonderful. And I didn't want the upset to just branch out. The point was they had a lot of records, man. My sister did too. And it was all, man, when I was 6 years old, I couldn't believe that there was somebody named Johnny Thunders in this world. How do you become Johnny Thunders? How do you become Ace Frehley?
These are superheroes. They're from another planet.
How do you become Rick Nielsen? And Rick Nielsen, and I put it together quite easy. He's like, wow, that guy must have been thinking, how do I become Pete Townsend? You know, how do you become Pete Townsend? You get lost in these records down in the basement.
I've got this vision of you being like William Miller from Almost Famous, where he's flicking through his sister's LPs and being amazed by all the different album covers.
When I saw that movie, that really touched me. And you know, you don't want to be that guy when you watch a movie with somebody else and you go, you know, that was kind of like me, because you just sound like a jerk. But anyway, the strength in characters in a great movie like that is that people can see themselves in it, right? Just like I think the best songs, people can hear their thoughts in it. And I felt a kinship with that character. Like I sat there on that floor cross-legged, just like you'd think, and listened to Nazareth records, you know, and Kiss and Led Zeppelin, the Stones, all the big ones, including like New York Dolls. And New York Dolls, you have to understand, back then they were like, this record was an anomaly. Like when I finally got into bands like, you know, Motley Crue and stuff like that, and Poison, and the big one, man, oh, Hanoi Rocks, holy cow, Jesus. I was just looking up to them. I was like, wow, I felt so proud of myself. I've been listening to this kind of music my whole life. Like it's obviously coming from here.
Did you almost like get to influence your friends as well? Because you had all this knowledge about, oh, this band influenced that one. So you almost passed it on to them.
I like to chat a little bit. If I like the person I'm with, I like to have a little bit of a chat. And on stage, my bandmates really love that in between songs. They either love it because they're tired and they want to have a break, or they're really upset because can we just hurry up? Can we get on with it? But I was that kid. I remember one thing in particular. I remember my friend just telling me to, I don't want to swear, F off, you know, kind of thing. It's like, shut up, man, kind of thing, right? Because I remember making a big thing about like Poison, Talk Dirty to Me, right? It had my guitar. And I was like, look, you see, this is exactly what I mean. It's like, look at this is like personality crisis, except you start on the C and you go to the octave G, but personality crisis, you go down low and you got that kind of Chuck Berry. He's like, I don't care. You know, I was full and I'm still full of just useless bits of nonsense like that. Like, because I just listened to those records over and over and over again. You know, there's certain songs, I won't get into that, but I think about songs like off of Beyond Nostalgia and Heartache or all the Role Models. There's always this song that I go, I know what mood I'm trying to capture. Like, you know, The Lights on Your Road off of Forest Lawn by Role Models. I remember I was like, oh, you know, this is my Cyndi Lauper song, you know, and stuff like that, you know. And if I had you for a beer for long enough, I could explain to you and you go, I totally understand why that's just a new opera song, man. It wouldn't be super apparent, but all those records and everything, man, you know, you've heard it before. It's an escape and everything else, but wow, what an escape. What a group of friends I've never met. Thank God for their friendship and their music. And then to have my brother George, you know, by my side and go, oh, you like that, kid? Then you're going to like this.
What was the band which he said, oh, you got to listen to this? And you was like, I'm not sure, but you really had to push through before it hit home.
I would have to say at first, when I was a kid, two of them, one would have been Nazareth, because I remember listening to them and I thought, well, they sound like a real cheap version of like the Stones and Zeppelin kind of put together, you know? But then I heard Razz andAz, you know, that song, and I was like, I'm going to go back. That guy's voice, I ended up like, Dan McCaffrey ended up being my favorite singer out of all of them, you know? I was like, it's so weird. At first, they just like, because I think the first one was like, now you're messing with, you know, that one. So I remember thinking, oh, shut up. That's so stupid. And then you hear the rest of the songs. It's like, oh my God. Yeah, that would be one. And the one that was like me and my brother's band, you're going to laugh. There was this hard rock band trio. They were huge in the States at Triumph. They were called, talking like arena size all the time. And I got to meet the bass player in Toronto. We became friends. His wife was an amazing photographer in Toronto. She used to come to the hair salon I worked at when I lived there. And Triumph was this band that George got me into. And at first I wasn't sure. They were pretty slick. And then I realized, holy cow, the song's like Magic Power is this one song that George's favorite one. Let's do it now. I love the earnestness of it. I think you got to be gutsy to be earnest sometimes. People laugh at you if you're not too ironic or something. It's like, no, that's how I feel, jerk. And they had that in spades, this kind of earnestness about them. But then when you heard them, it was like, wow, they're just so good. And I was too young to go see that. Put your seatbelt on for this. The Allied Forces tour, you know, and George came home and like by the time he got home it was midnight or whatever, and he bought me his little 10-year-old brother's shirt.
Wow.
And then when I told Mike Levine, the bass player, that when I met him, he was like, oh, that's amazing. My wife met him once at a party in Toronto, and I was like, you have no idea like how famous this guy was in Canada and stuff and the States. And she was like, wow. It's amazing. He was like, oh, wow. So you got on the radio in England and you were living in New York for a while. How's that go? I got to tell you, buddy, I know we're friends, but it still moves me to know that you would even care about what I was doing or even know. And then he goes, man, Triumph never got on the radio in England. And I remember Justine thinking, she got it right away. I was like, wow, what a kind man. And when my brother George, when he was getting really, he had brain cancer and he lost power of speech and stuff. And it was hard. And it happened very fast. And I couldn't get there in time. And I didn't get there in time. It's one of my, I have to live with that now. I tried and there was like lots of restrictions and everything else. He died when I was on the plane over. I landed and my phone was just filled with messages and I was like, that's not good, you know? And, but before, as I was waiting, you know, a few days before, I messaged Rosie Levine, which has got to be the best name for a rock and roll wife, eh? Rosie. So awesome. I was like, do you think Mike would send him a message saying, hey, your little brother wants me to say kind of message, right? Next day, he had it all filmed out. He was so thoughtful. He took the album cover, Allied Forces, held it up and was like into the screen going, you and your brother used to play this on Saturday nights a lot. And, you know, I'm glad to have been part of your memories. I was like, what a beautiful thing. And the nurse said that he just could not stop smiling and he started crying, but in a good way if he could. And I felt like I reached him because that was one of his favorite bands. And I could tell that part of him would have been thinking, that little son of a, you know, he was really moved. I think the last time I could reach him. So that band is funny. Like I said, when I first heard them, I heard some song was of no consequence to me. And then after, I mean, when I play it for Gaff and all those guys in the band, you know, Gaff and I like to make our little plans, you know, for the band. That's our roles together. You know, we kind of bounce things off each other. It's kind of hang out after rehearsals or whatever. And the drinks are happening and we're like DJing for each other. And it's like got to the point now. It's like, all right. It's nostalgia time. Where's the Triumph song? Don't cry. Rags, don't cry.
Yeah.
You know, like, all right, you know, that kind of stuff. And we have a good time. It's anyway, dude.
What an awesome full circle thing for him to do that, harking back to that initial memory and connection with you and your brother, him getting you that t-shirt.
What a dude.
I want to talk about Van Halen.
That's funny. I just saw the I'm pointing at the screen. I just was looking at your 1984 framed picture there, man. And
that was a big album for you.
Whew, the very first concert I ever saw was that tour. David Lee Roth. And oh, man, it was incredible. We went with my, I was 12. My brother took me, got 3 tickets, and he got a ticket for Susan, the very, very pretty Italian neighbor who was 13, who thought Van Halen were heavy metal garbage and they were boring. And why should she have to go? Because Rich would probably feel good if there was somebody his age. It's his first concert. I'm like, oh, so embarrassing. I'm standing right here. Don't talk, you know, about me like that, you know. she finally just relented. But this is going to be boring and I'm going to hate it. Her favorite band was the Go-Go's.
Not a bad choice.
Not a bad choice, which she presented to me as though that was the war that was going on. I was like, I love the Go-Go's. What are you talking about? You want me to argue with you on this? But anyway, so they go on and they open with one of the greatest things I've ever seen in my life. They opened with Unchained. And I just remember, oh my God, it's like this one spotlight on Eddie. And it's like this little guy making all this noise. You know, that flange, like, it's like, oh my God, holy cow. This is amazing. And I was just enraptured. And then David Lee Roth comes out. And I thought, well, you know, this guy's the king.
With the jump, the splits off the drum riser.
That's how it started. There's footage of him playing. My friend Sean Kelly, he's an amazing musician. He sent me footage of that tour. He goes, this must have been 2 days after you saw him, Rags. This is in Montreal. Because he only played Vancouver, Calgary, Montreal, and Toronto. And that's exactly what happened. You're right. And Dave Lee Roth comes out, and I was like, no, Eddie's not the king. Dave's the king. This is his personal barbecue, man. 20,000 people at his barbecue. And he's DJing. And he's got the best jukebox in the world. He's got the American Led Zeppelin behind him. God damn. And I was like, it's amazing. And then this girl who
thought she hated.
Yeah, we're sitting there on the balcony, right up against the balcony. It was like where the Queen would sit. You know, we had the perfect seats. It's like, you know, not being bashed around on the floor. Like, you know, we just could see the whole stage. It's right there in front of us. And the slow rise of Eddie, Eddie, because at the beginning of Everybody Wants Some, doom, 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 and Eddie, Eddie, ba-da-da, you know, with all the chords and stuff. And they're playing it up, and I turn around, and who's chanting that guy's name? This is a beautiful Italian girl who hated Van Halen 15 minutes ago. And I said to myself, and it's one of the biggest things that, you know, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you now if this didn't happen. I said to myself, guitars change people's minds. Changed her mind. Eddie, by playing this guitar, infusing so much joy and life into what she thought was going to be a boring, bombastic, heavy metal night, she found out it was Mardi Gras, and it was color, and it was fun, and it was about friendship. And it was about sharing a moment. And whoa, sharing a moment, changing people's minds. And I had to get a guitar, man.
That was the moment. That was the light bulb.
I mean, I was so in love with rock and roll anyway.
How much of Van Halen did you know prior to that gig? Was you already a fan?
Oh, I knew every lyric to every song.
So you were extra excited to see that gig.
I was extra excited, yeah. At that point, at 12 years old, my life was ruled by Kiss and Van Halen. And everybody go, well, that sounds like pretty... I was like, I don't care how cliche that is. You know, one day I think Stanley was the best front man. But it's like, oh, no, he's no David Lee Roth, though. But then look at the way he dances in those boots, you know, that kind of stuff. Put them at war with each other in my head, you know. But talk about Sean Kelly. It's like, you know, oh, that's a great first moment. I was like, but you have to be methodical about what was the first live band that I ever saw. It had to be a support band for Van Halen, right? Which was, I don't know if you remember this. I think you do. The band called Autograph. Turn up the radio, that one. And Sean just loved it. Sean was laughing. He goes, you know what, Rex? That's really cool. That Autograph was like your first moment, like to see. I was like, yeah, that guy, he had that orange hair, like the singer, you know. And it was just like, I liked them too because they were the new bands and stuff. But the whole night, I can see where in giant places like that, people pay a lot of money. I can see how it's tough for a support band for the honest reason of, wow, this other band that's headlining obviously has gotten there by making those inroads into these people's hearts. So you have to win these other people over. And a lot of times it works. But yeah, even though I liked Autograph, I was like, the whole time I was like, oh, okay. All right, get off now.
Bring on the big guns.
And it was amazing. The second concert was Kiss, actually, Animalized.
I think they did a home video for it, didn't they?
I love you, man. We gotta hang out. No, I'm serious.
I've probably got it over here on the shelf somewhere.
I would say it's probably called Animalized, Uncut. It's like, and its home video was filmed at Detroit Cobo Hall. Look at the box later. Tell me.
I'll send you a picture.
Yeah, send me a picture, dude. Yeah.
And your first guitar was an $80 Telecaster, right?
How do you know this stuff, dude? That's amazing. You're really making me feel like, yes, it was an $80 Telecaster because a couple of my brothers had tried. They got mom and dad to buy the guitars for them and stuff, and they lasted like about 2 weeks, and then guitars were catching dust. And they were never in their cases. And one guitar was like a Les Paul copy and the thing snapped, like typical, they didn't care. So when I was begging for a guitar after that Van Halen concert, there was just no way because they're expensive. And it was like, no, you don't want to do that. First of all, you don't want to do that. We don't want to hear that noise. And God bless them. They're hardworking. And they're like, listen, I don't want to buy you something that you're just going to break and lose because it takes a lot to learn how to play an instrument. Being a father now, I realize, you can't see inside your child's head. This thing is so important to me. You don't know what I'm about to do. I'm going to start my life here. How would you know you're only 12? Well, fair enough. So I had to wait a long time, dude. I waited till I was 14, lied about my age, and got a job at McDonald's. Because I was 14, Eastern European, Hungarian, with that good enough dark mustache, coming in, that kind of, yes, man. I let that kind of grow in a bit. And I said that I was 16, lied about my age. Or where's your birth certificate you needed? Oh, I'll bring it in. I forgot it. I forgot it forever. And then I worked and I bought that guitar. And this is the thing I always loved. My father, I miss him dearly too. He was a fucking great man. I love him so much. I brought that guitar home. My mom was like, where did you get that? And I was like, where do you think I've been after schools, So I had this guitar and I was downstairs and I was just plucking away. I wouldn't say things came fast or easy, but I think I had a pretty good ear. But I was just so interested in it. I had to work quite hard because I taught myself how to play. I can't read and I have no formal training or anything. So I just, I knew a couple of songs, like I knew how to play a Quiet Ride, down. I knew how to play a power chord, so I could go power chord up and down the thing anyway. And I was just clanging away. My dad came home from work and he heard the clanging away. And my mom was like, Mishka, Jerida, Hungarian, come on. You wouldn't believe, Rich, we thought he was playing basketball or something like that. He's been working at McDonald's. Bought himself a guitar. So my dad came down. He had this great thing where he'd raise his eyebrows, and he'd act like he was mad. Stomped downstairs, opened the door. Rich, what's this? But I could see he always had this dimple too. And I knew that he was not mad. I knew that he was kind of playing this up to see how I would react. And I was like, what does it look like? I was like, it's the guitar that I said that I was going to get one way or another. And he just looked at me. I can imagine this now being a father. I don't know if I wish I could be this kind to my kids or make a difference in their lives like this. But he went, you got to plug that into something, don't you? And I said, yeah. Well, I go, yeah, that would be amazing. But, that's going to be another couple of months. I was making $3.95 an hour. And he went, okay, I'll take, and he'd never do this for anything. Take the morning off work. He was just like that guy. Just, he worked his ass off and he was proud of the things that he did. He used to pave roads, And he just said, I'll take the morning off. He took me downtown and got me it was awesome. PV Backstage Plus, buddy. You know what I mean? It's not distortion. I'm going to tell you right now, it's called saturation, my friend. And that treble knob, oh man, it couldn't go high enough. You know what I'm saying? It had to sound like a jar of angry wasps or I wasn't playing. Just bzzz. Bzzz. I tried it out by playing, Metal Health, Bang Your Head by Quiet Riot. Bzzz, 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 bzzz. And my dad was like, oh, this is going to be terrible.
You got any headphones for that thing?
And I know this is a euphemism for something else, but I strangled that cat in my bedroom for learning how to play. My favorite record that I learned a lot off of was Mob Rules, Black Sabbath, Country Girl. When I learned that little riff, that little lick, I just looked in the mirror and I was like, oh, look out, world. Oh, Rich is coming for you. He's coming. That lick, man. Nothing's going to stop me.
Was you playing stuff for George? Was like, hey, listen to this. Listen to this.
Yeah. The other great teachers for me on guitar were Malcolm Young, all those Kiss songs, all the Doll songs. These are all stuff that George really liked, and he was really just so cool about it, man. He'd sit there and listen. And yeah, I just taught myself all these songs. And the best thing was that I was in a neighborhood with a lot of very big immigrant neighborhood, okay? And for some reason, the Italians, all their kids started playing piano when they were like 2 years old or something. So, this guy, Joe Montagnese, big guitar player in our neighborhood, and he, wow, man, that guy was already playing like Richie Blackmore solos and then straight into Yngwie Malmsteen. And I was like, oh. But the best drummer in the neighborhood, this guy, Jason Marchant, who was like half native and half Scottish. So he had this wonderful, beautiful complexion, dark complexion, these blue eyes, and this long black hair. And as far as I was concerned, that was my Tommy Lee, and I was Nikki Sixx, and I was going to write all these amazing songs. Anyway, he wanted to be in a band with me instead of, all these other guys who were playing. I was serious. They all wanted him to be in a band, but no, he wanted to be in our band, which we called Rat Salad.
Quality, good name.
Yeah, and Rat Salad was the name of the band. And the thing was, I was writing songs because I didn't just want to spend all my time in the bedroom, like woodshedding away. I thought, we could probably play a gig pretty soon. And what bands do I like anyway? Hanoi Rocks were really amazing musicians, but their songs, Taxi Driver and stuff. I was like, we can do this. This is now an attainable idea, to play fun songs like that. And then, but he was like a good musician. He's a really good drummer. And he's like kind of getting bored, like just, I got a new song. Yeah, but do you know how to play For Whom the Bell Tolls, by Metallica? So I've got versions, Gaff loves this. I've got versions of songs that sound just like the songs. Imagine it really loud in the garage, the drums blasting. They aren't how you play the songs, but they are so close, and there's such rip-off little things that it's so funny. Like, For Whom the Bell Tolls is a pretty good, that da, 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 da. And then instead of that chord that goes da, I just hit all the strings open. Da, 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 da. It's not how you play a song, but it was close enough. You know what? It was good. You know what? It's better. It's good enough. We had the time of our lives, man. And then when I would kind of in my head try to piece together how to play Looks That Kill, I didn't have the tab for it, or I didn't have the patience to sit there. I go listen to it and I come up with something that sounded similar or close. And then all of a sudden I was like, oh, that made me want to write a song like that. And then, there's that part that I learned from, the Black Sabbath song that'll go cool between something like that, Shout at the Devil or Taxi Driver, make it a little bit more metally. And oh man, I just loved it. It's like that very typical cliche of like, what a wonderful world I'm part of. It's so great to be in this garage, with my friend, not seeing the sun on summer days. Beautiful.
When did you feel like you were getting to a point where you needed to move away? Was that opportunities from other bands, joining other bands?
As you start touring, I was in this band, Red Autumn Fall. I was in a band called Next in Line first, and that was my first bar band. That first year, man, I was a hustler, man. I was like 18 years old, and I kept a diary of all the gigs. And my wife was like, wow, I hustled us over 100 gigs in our first year. For an 18-year-old, just going to the bar, drinking age in Alberta was 18. So I was like hanging out, just kind of like meeting the doorman, blah, 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 blah. Oh, you got to see my band. Here's my cassette, with a picture of us, like an actual picture, And then joined Red Autumn Fall after that because that band started to be a little bit of a dead end. I felt like I was being bossy because I was like, look, we got these opportunities. And they was like, oh, no, I'd rather just stay home and make out with my girlfriend. Okay, that's cool. You can do that. I don't want to do that. I do want to do that, but like I got other things to do as well. And so, Red On Fall, we did stuff like, we toured so much. We'd have like gigs with Oasis, for instance, we ended up playing with. We also played a laundromat in Saskatchewan for gas money. It was like a laundromat that had a little bar in the corner. It's called Suds and Such. And these people were like folding their laundry, watching us play. And I remember my singer looking at me going, what are we doing? Playing this laundromat in Saskatchewan. Can't even remember what the town's name was. It was like, we just needed gas money to get to Winnipeg. And then, moved to Toronto, blah, blah, blah. And then I moved to New York City. And it was a natural set of circumstances that led me away, but certainly a path that I knew those circumstances were going to come up. Calgary's a wonderful place, full of wonderful people, but I wanted to see the world and see where this could take me. It was exciting and scary, and you're poor. It's amazing how happy I was.
How familiar was you with New York? Had you been there on tour quite a few times?
Well, a few times, yeah. We had this drummer named Belvy Klein. He played in 7 Seconds. He was the original drummer for Degeneration. And he joined our band because he was always in Toronto. And he was a great drummer, man. Holy cow. Jesse Malin, if you know who he is, he's singing for D-Generation. He's a wonderful singer now, songwriter. He kind of took us under his wing a bit and was like, you belong here, don't you? And I just remember thinking, this guy's a bit of a hero already to me because D-Generation stuff. And I was like, that you just, you just made me want to be here more,
Whereabouts did you move to in the city?
First place I lived in was in Brooklyn, just off of the Graham Avenue stop, Williamsburg, with a girl that I'd met. Still a really good friend now to this day, Kate. Then we broke up and whatever. And then I moved to Avenue D and 10th Street in a building. And Sammy Alpha lived downstairs from Hanoi Rocks. I was like, holy cow. Because I was friends with the guys in the Toilet Boys, Sean and those guys who we met in Toronto. They had gotten him to come to a bar to see my band that I was playing with, the New Professionals. And he really liked it. And then I, come downstairs after not sleeping and, being awake all the time. You know what I mean? And I remember there were like 4 cats in this little apartment and the girl didn't really clean up after them, So it always smelled like cat piss, right? So I was like, I just remember thinking, Sammy Alpha's like, I used to have his picture on my locker door, and there he is sitting there with his beautiful girlfriend, Carmen, on the front porch, having a coffee early in the morning, which I always liked. I could tell like I was, he was up that early, I kind of always thought that was cool. So I'd be on my way. I worked in another hair salon. I had to walk all the way down to East 4th and Bowery, just down the street from CBGB's is where I work. I go, oh man, can you tell me, do I smell like cat piss? Is it me? Is it my clothes? And there's my hero grabbing my shirt and sniffing it. First thing in the morning going, no, that the way he talks. No, the smell's in your nose now, it's like that you thinking you're smelling it, but we can't smell anything. Don't worry. I remember walking away going, my hero just checked to see if I smelled like cat piss. I am exactly where I need to be in my life. I felt like I was a page on like, Please Kill Me, I was like, this is amazing.
Superb.
And those guys were all really, Jesse, he gave me a job and all sorts of things. And they were just so supportive. And you always feel so lucky to be amongst these special people. And I always think, what the fuck? Why would they want to hang out with me? Or why are they being so nice to me? And
never question it. Never question it.
It was just wonderful. It was great. And they were so cool and nice. And there were trials and tribulations in New York. But then there's this phone call we get from a guy named Zane Lowe. He got a demo. He left a message for Belvy. Belvy being a New Yorker, born and bred. Belvy's godmother is Debbie Harry. He wanted me to come to his wedding so bad just recently because his wedding, they put a band together and Debbie was singing. And he was like, I don't even care if you come to my wedding, Rags. What I do care about is you coming down and being the guitar player for this cover band with Debbie Harry. I couldn't make it from England.
Oh, man.
But anyway, I sent him my love and he's like, don't be stupid and blah, blah, blah. But anyway, yeah, where was I with Belvy? He was, we got this message from Zane Lowe, left it old school style on his home landline answering machine. He goes, somebody's messing with us, man. This can't be real. Now listen to this stupid message. It doesn't even sound like a real English accent. And it was, hi, Belvy, Madison Strays. We want to have your babies. This is Zane Lowe from Radio 1. You just won fresh meat. And I was like, what the hell's a fresh meat? And then he explains that it was a call-in show and we had won by this landslide by beating U2.
Wow. Wasn't Zane Lowe from New Zealand originally?
I don't know what the hell it was. Please don't be mad at me. I don't know where he's from. I never really listened to his show, okay? But he was like, we want to have your babies. And I was like, we want to have your babies is amazing. Line to open up. Man, he got us, it was like literally from 1 week, we got that message. We called him from Belvy didn't want to make a long-distance phone call from his landline. We stayed up all night drinking and got a telephone, the telephone cards, called Zane Lowe from a phone booth. And lo and behold, it was him. It was literally within a week, we were on the Stringfellow Agency's website as one of their bands. It was like The Killers, The Strokes, and at the very bottom, but still on the list, that would be the name of my autobiography. Might be at the bottom, but I'm still on the list. That's not bad. I'm going to write that song. Thank you. But there was Madison Strays, and then they brought us over. And then, oh man, I met my wife at the Barfly gig. And
what year was this?
2005.
I mean, Tash, you already had a countryman you knew over here, Rich Jones. Where does Rich Jones come into your timeline?
Oh, Rich Jones, back when I was living in Toronto, he was in a band called the Black Halos. And we've talked about this after the fact. We'd see each other's posters, Red on Fall posters. We play the same places and stuff. Those guys were always out there. And he always saw our posters, these guys, And then him and Billy had seen us actually open up for Oasis bassist at Commodore Ballroom in Vancouver. That's what he said. Oh, I was waiting to hit you guys, man. Everybody said that you guys were like this Bauhaus meets the Smiths kind of thing, postmodern garbage. And then he said, oh, and then Billy and I actually kind of really liked you guys. So we knew of each other. So when I came to the UK, we had met at a gig, and he was like, wow, you look so different, because my hair was really long now and stuff. And he's like, you look so different, dude. And it was kind of like, we were so happy to see each other. It was like, dude. And what happened was I had just started. I was going to go on tour with a guy named Neil Layton, who was in the glam band from Toronto, Conscious Pilot.
He had all the Fading Ways music label and stuff like that.
Yes. He's still a great friend, to the fact that, I don't know if I can say this. What the hell? We're going to do some recording in Portugal, just me and him, just do a thing together, which I always wanted to do, because as much as we played together in the past, we've never recorded together. So I got some songs, and he really liked it. And so we're just going to do a thing where, we pick who sings which and what. So it's going to be really great. But they were working at a rehearsal studio, Enterprise Studios, and I was working at DFS, moving sofas into the back of lorries. And I was starting to just hate it so much. These guys I worked with had no necks, and apparently, I couldn't make tea. I was like, well, how hard is it? You put the bag in hot water. Like, quit making it seem like you're something special. I don't get that. Making tea is hard. I don't know. I just didn't fit in there very well, I guess. I didn't feel comfortable. What am I doing? I wasn't playing with anybody just yet. I had to start all over again. The thing was, Zane Lowe and those guys asked us to move here for 6 months to play festivals, and we'd be in the smallest stages, but they were going to get us all this press. Now, the band didn't want to do that, Madison Strays, and I said, if we're getting these people, this is a special situation. That's it. Special situations. And you're not going to do it? Well, I love you guys where I'm going to go. This is just going to happen again. And I see your priorities. I mean, we work so hard. I figured that the priorities were the same, but they weren't. That's okay. I'm still great friends with them. I was like, it's not going to go. So I moved here, didn't have anything, nothing. And I'm working. And then Rich was like, you can't do this. And then Jones got me a job at Enterprise Studios. That job, man. You couldn't make it up. It was nuts. It was just like literally, in between the bands, we just sitting there drinking and playing guitar all day. And then, 15 minutes of complete chaos while everybody tries to pay at once. And then getting the other bands in. And then another 3 hours of putting your feet up and playing, And that was it. And then Rich, our friendship obviously just cemented itself again. Because he remembered when his band's van broke down in Toronto, I gave him a place, them all to stay at my place. And then the next time they came into town, they just stayed at my place anyway. And we just made great friendships with each other. And that's another guy that my mom always says, oh, that boy, Rich Jones, he's what we call the full name friend. I bet you're a full name friend to a lot of people. You're not ever just Rob, are you? You're Rob Lane.
I guess so.
Yeah, I've heard it like that. It's never just Rob. My friend Rob, it's Rob Lane, Rich Jones, Phil Smith, these people. They're all full name friends, but I digress, as they say. And our friendship grew. He's been on every Role Models album. We've written songs together. We've hung out. Like my mom always says it. He even looks like your brother more than your brothers do.
Awesome, man.
Yeah. But yeah, Jones, I love that guy. He's back in Canada now. But yeah, that's it. We hooked up, basically saying, you poor son of a, you can't be doing this. Like, you should be around music, What are you here for? You're not just here to get married and work in a warehouse or something. Like, getting married, that's the wonderful part of it. But you're not just here to do that. You're here you have a plan, don't you, buddy? And it's not going to be in the back of a lorry with a giant sofa.
Does being in different environments, does that change or help your creativity?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, sure it does. There's a lot of songs I wrote during that time. Do you know what I mean? I was still writing and stuff like that. I just had no one to play with really yet. Yeah, it just depends. That's what I've always loved about that. It's like, that's the best thing about songwriting, isn't it, Rob? It's like you're sharing. It's all about like the thing I'll say to get moments, you create a moment by writing something about a moment you experience and you share it with other people. You create this wonderful moment by playing off each other. And then somebody else is listening to it at a party. And it's lovely because you're the soundtrack to their moment of their first kiss, their first beer, maybe not their first beer, maybe their 10th beer of the night. And you're part of it. And all of a sudden you become the fabric, no matter how large or how small, you become the fabric of something greater than yourself. And it's all wonderfully snowballed and coalesced into this experience. and experiences.
That's what everything's about when it comes to music and touring and playing live. It's just the experiences which you take.
Yeah, man. It's funny. And, if you want to be a shrink about it, wow, you feel like you belong to something larger than yourself, and it makes you feel comfortable, Like there's no swimming pool shaped like a guitar in my back garden, you know what I mean? But, I know that my music's meant something to somebody, not in any kind of big thing, but, I've been told that it's helped people. I've been told that I was just listening to you when it was used as a soundtrack during a wedding, things like that. And it's like, it sure means a lot to me that all over the little globe, there's like one or two people that may have heard a Role Models record or this or that or Madison, or anything. I just feel part of something, feel lucky to be part of this life.
I'm sure that kid at that Van Halen concert would have been impressed.
A kid at the Van Halen concert, he thought he knew what he was doing. He thought he knew where it was going to happen, but I don't think he really realized. But, like I said, most of the stuff that seemed hard were the times when you were the happiest. And, what an amazing situation to be part of,
Rich, I'm going to wrap it up on that because that's a lovely way to end it.
Like I said, all that stuff, to wrap it up, it's like I get to talk to you. And, I feel like I know I've been talking, you've been asking, but let's get together for a beer or something sometime, man.
Definitely, man. Next time I'm down that way, we'll have to do that.
Yeah, because I have a feeling now that, especially with the Sean Kelly thing, I see the posters in the background there. I think we have a good common place where a beer or two or whatever, I think that we can have a pretty fun time together, buddy.
Sweet, man. Well, hopefully we can hook up for that beer next year sometime.
Thanks so much, buddy.
You have a very Merry Christmas and all that, and I'll hopefully see you 2022.
Yes, buddy. And yeah, please, let's do that because I think we have a great time, man. I think we're talking about autograph albums and stuff.
Well, I'm going to go and watch Animalize live now anyway.
Tell me if I'm right. Look at the box. Cobo Hall, Detroit.
Do you feel like you want to feel? They steal what they want to steal from me. I ain't gonna kneel no more. Feel like you want to feel? They steal what they want to steal from me. I ain't gonna kneel no more.
Big thank you to Rich Ragany for speaking to me and making things super fun here on the Straight to Video podcast. And just to confirm, yes, he was correct. The Kiss Animalized live uncensored VHS was filmed at Cobo Hall in Detroit back in 1984. So top marks, sir, top marks. If you enjoyed our chat and want to find out more about Rich, then head on over to his and the band's Bandcamp page at bandcamp.com. Simply search Rich Ragany and all his songs will come up, or you can find them on all social media platforms. And be sure to check out the Rich Ragany and the Digressions album Beyond Nostalgia and Heartache, which is out now and available on vinyl or to stream wherever you get your music. Alright, almost 150 episodes of this podcast. All are available at stvpod.com along with some STV music, videos and merch. And I want to say thank you for all the listens, streams and downloads you do, and for the messages and shares that really help grow this show. It ain't nothing without you lot, so it means a lot. So until we chat again, please take care and speak to you all real soon.